Okay.
Zion. A cavity 1 handbreadth of 1 handbreadth square that is 1 handbreadth high conveys tumor and acts as a barrier against tumor. How so? In the case of a sewer beneath a house that contains a cubic handbreadth and has an outlet of a square handbreadth, if there is tumor inside the sewer, the house remains tahor. If there is tumor in the house, whatever is inside the sewer remains tahor because that is the way of the tumor to exit, but is not the way to enter. In the case where the sewer contains a cubic handbreadth and its outlet is smaller than a square handbreadth, if there is tumor inside the sewer, the house remains tame. If there is tumor in the house, whatever is inside the sewer remains taho, because it is the way of tumor to exit, but not the way to enter. In the case where the sewer is smaller than a cubic handbreadth and its outlet is smaller than a square handbreadth, if there is tumor inside the sewer, the house remains tame. If there is tumor in the house, whatever is inside the sewer becomes tame. This law is true whether the hole was hollowed out by water, by
Oh
small.
gosh,
I'm sorry, I went too much. I went too far.
you've been doing all of my Mishnas, haven't you?
Oh,
Oh,
all right.
no, no, hang on. Which one? Which one? I was
I
just like,
just did.
I lost. I was like just catching up a couple of things when you started, and I was trying to find your place. And next thing I hear you saying things that that are to do with today's
I was
Mishnah.
doing Gimel Zion. Gimel Zion.
Gimel Zayin. You started with Gimel Zayin. That's good. Okay, that's great.
Yes,
So where
that's
were
where
you
I am right
from?
now. That's where I'm at because we did this yesterday. We talked about the sewer underneath the house and
Um, Gimel Zayin and yeah. Okay. No, fine, fine. You were right then. Okay, beg your pardon. You carry
finish this.
You carry on.
This
I'm just being
this law
silly.
is true where the hole was hollowed by water, small animals, erosion, or it's also true by formed by a pile of boulders or a stack of beams. Yehuda says any roof that is not man-made is not considered an ohel. However, he agrees with respect to crags, and protecting rock formations that are considered olaim.
Okay. Yeah, carry
Uh,
on.
this is a dollar olive.
Yes,
If a
good.
cabinet standing in the open here and has tumor inside it, the utensils inside the sides remain tahor. If tumor is inside its sides, the utensils inside the cabinet remain tahor. If Yossi says half and half. If the cabinet is standing inside the house and the tumor is inside the cabinet, the house becomes tummy. If tumor is inside the house, whatever is inside the cabinet remains tahor because it is the way of the tumor to exit, but not the way to enter. In a case where there are utensils between the cabinet and either the ground, the wall, or the ceiling beams, if there is space of 1 handbreadth, they are tame, and if not, they are taho. If tumor is there, the house is tame. A drawer of a cabinet contains a cubic handbreadth of empty space and has an opening smaller than a square handbreadth. If there is tumor inside the drawer, the house becomes tame, and if there is tumor inside the house, whatever is inside the drawer remains taho because it is the way of the tumor to exit and the way not the way of tumor to enter. Rabbi Yossi rules the house tahor because one can remove the tumor in halves and burn it on its place.
Okay.
Now it's your turn.
My turn. All right. So now we've got our big cabinet. Remember this, we have to make this into a big cabinet, one that's outsized, because the cabinet itself has to be an ohel and not a kli. A kli and an ohel are kind of mutually exclusive, because if something is called a kli, it can't be an ohel, and if something is an ohel, it can't be a kli. Okay, so now this cabinet is big enough that it's not moved easily, so it's not considered a kli, even though it's theoretically a portable cabinet. It's big enough that it contains 40 sa'ah of volume, and therefore it's an ohel in its own right. Now, if this cabinet were placed inside the doorway of the house, so it's like blocking the doorway, okay, and the doors are facing the outside. Okay, so you got the picture, cupboard in the doorway, doors facing outwards. Okay, tuma besocho, if the tuma is inside the cabinet, habayis tahor, then the house is still tahor, right? Because even though the cabinet is partially inside the house, the tuma wants to go out.
Right.
And the cabinet being an ohel in its own right shields the house. Okay. Tuma babayis, what happens if there's tuma in the house and that's the only exit? If that's the only exit, then it blasts straight through the cupboard. Because tuma wants to go out, and if the way out is blocked, it'll just go straight through. Okay. Right. So now let's say this cabinet had a wheel on it. Okay, it's a wheeled cabinet. And we saw this in Kalim, the concept of the wheeled cabinet, and the wheel itself has a compartment inside the wheel.
Right.
Okay. So it's one of its wheels goes backwards. So you can imagine this if it's sitting on a platform and let's say it's got 4 wheels, and the 2 back wheels are sitting nicely under the roof of the house. Okay. Shalosh etzbaos, even if it's just three finger breadths inside. Tuma sham keneged hakoros. Now, what happens if there's a little compartment inside the wheel, and there's a tuma inside that wheel? Okay, abayas tahor, because the wheels are fixed to the cabinet, and therefore they're considered part of the cabinet, and the tuma goes out through the cabinet.
This is a similar thing, right? A similar thing, Caleb, with the wheels, with wheels and being able to open the little thing on the.
Yeah, that's right. But it's closed right now, and but the Mishna points out, there has to be that cubic tefach of space inside the wheel. Otherwise, you're not talking. Otherwise, it's not an ohel. It's a tuma ritzutza. That's called the tuma ritzutza. When it's closed up like that, then the tuma just breaks straight through. You need the cubic tefach of space to how can you imagine it? Like it sort of slows down the progress of the tuma. It's just the space of a tefach can contain the tuma. Anything less than that, the tuma just goes straight through. Okay. And also, it must be a wheel that's fixed, that doesn't come off, because if it's a wheel that comes off, then that wheel is just a kli sitting inside the house, in which case the tuma goes straight through. Migdal bam bamida, and of course the cupboard itself needs to be large enough that it itself is not subject to tuma. Okay, Perikei. Tanur, shehu omed b'soch habayis. So you've got a clay oven sitting inside the house. Okay, now and there's an iron. This is, I guess, it's an air pipe that goes through to the outside and allows for air to come in and feed the flames. So it's got this little pipe that sticks out to the outside. Kamura lachutz, and it's also covered over, because when you've got an air pipe like that, you don't want rain to fall into it. So you put like a sort of like people put over their chimneys. You put a little a dish on legs on top of it to prevent the rain from getting in. Okay, so it's not sealed by any means, of course, but it is covered on the top. And meanwhile, a procession of mourners comes past, and they're carrying the mace to the funeral. And the mace overshadows this pipe outlet. So now, what's going to be the din of the oven of the house? So Beis Shammai omrim hakol tameh, not just the oven itself, but the whole house is going to be tameh. Now, why would this be? First of all, the cover that we've got on the oven is not going to be sufficient to protect it, because an oven is a kli cheres, and a kli cheres can only be protected if it's got a tzamid pasil, if it's completely sealed. Okay, that it doesn't have. But nonetheless, being that this is not actually part of the oven, it's just sort of an air inlet, and why should the tumah want to go inside? Tumah wants to go out, not in.
Right.
So what we say over here is that it's a case of a tumah d'Rabbanan, that Chachamim wanted paskened a gezerah on this oven because of the case of an oven that's actually outside, so that you wouldn't think that if this oven were actually sitting outdoors, and the same mace passed over the same air inlet, then it would actually become a tameh d'oraisa, because it's not like tumah wants to go in or out. It's just tumah that's on top of a kli that's entirely outside. Okay, so that would have been tameh d'oraisa. So they made this gezerah over here so that you don't forget the d'oraisa. Okay, and Beis Shammai go as far as saying, well, the entire once the oven inside is tameh, it's going to spread its tumah to the rest of the house as well. Beis Hillel disagree. They say Hatana Tame v'Abayis Tahor. No, just the oven becomes Tame with this Gezerah, but the house remains Tahor. Right? You don't need to paskin on the whole house. You're just paskening on the oven because that's the part that we really want you to remember. Rabbi Akiva Omer Afatanu Tahor. Rabbi Akiva says no such Gezerah. The whole thing was you're wrong, and we don't make any gezerah on this oven, and it remains entirely tahor. Okay, halacha follows Beis Hillel. A similar case in Mishnah base, aruba, a skylight, shebein habayis la'aliyah. So there's an opening in the ceiling between the house and the attic. Okay. And now you've got an earthenware pot that was placed covering this opening over here. So that should be the kedera is functioning like a door, that it's closed the opening over there. Now we have a case unakuva bekones mashke, but there's a problem with this pot in that it has got little holes in it that if you submerge the pot into water, the water would start flowing into the pot. Okay, so we have an interesting little mix of things of circumstances over here. If you've got tumah inside the house. Now, first of all, let's just go through basic principles over here. If you had a house with doors, just forget about the attic for now. Just a house with doors, and the door is closed, and there's a tumah in the main entrance, but the bedroom door is closed. Okay, are things inside the bedroom tameh?
There should be tameh.
No,
the whole house is.
The door is closed. The tumah wants to go out through the front door.
Oh, it wants to go out, right?
Tumah wants to go out, and since the door is closed, it screens the tumah from the bedroom.
Right.
Like if the door is open, then yes, the bedroom would be tameh. But if
I'm sorry.
Okay, right. Okay, fine. Now, the same would be true with the attic, right? The attic is like, imagine there's a door. If there's a hatch door that opens and closes, if it's closed, then the attic is screened. If it's not, then it's tameh. Now, instead of a screen, we've got a pot. Okay, the pot is now covering it. So if you have an intact pot, then everyone would agree this is fine. It's just no worse than a door. Mm-hmm. And if tumah's inside the house, the attic is tahor. However, what we have here now is a pot that's got holes in it. Now, if you remember from Kalim, a pot that's got holes in it that can be kodesh mashke is useless, and therefore it cannot screen tumah even from itself. Okay, so normally an earthenware pot, it won't screen tumah from anything inside it. It doesn't protect. Okay, so now the situation is that this pot that cannot protect itself is being used as a door for an attic, and you can see where there's going to be space for a disagreement over here. So what's the situation? Beis Shammai omrim hakol tameh. They say that what's in the pot is tameh, and what's in the attic is tameh. Beis Hillel omrim hakedera tameh v'aliyah torah. So whatever's inside the pot, that becomes tameh because the pot is here. Because there you're looking at the pot. Ki'ilu it's a kli. Can it screen its interior from tumah? No, because if it's got kodesh mashke, then what's inside it will become tameh. But as regards the attic, we look at it in a different sense and say that this pot is actually functioning like a door. And as far as a door is concerned, there's no din that a door can't have little holes in it. Okay, so therefore, in terms of its function as a door, it screens the attic. So again, we see the same configuration of opinions as in the previous Mishnah, that Rabbi Akiva says that even the pot is tahor, because it's considered like it's closed regarding the attic. He says, well, once we're saying that the door is closed on the attic, then the stuff that's inside the pot is inside the attic, and therefore it's tahor. And again, I believe the halacha follows Beis Hillel. Okay, back to the beginning of our Masechta.
Wait a second. Oh, sorry. The beginning of
Ohalos.
Ohalos. Right. We're starting at Aleph Aleph.
Yes.
Excuse me, two can become tummy from a corpse. One becomes tummy for 7 days, and one becomes tummy until evening. Three can become tummy from a corpse. Two of them become tummy for 7 days, and one becomes tummy until evening. Four become tummy from a corpse, and three of them become tummy for 11 days, and one becomes tummy till evening. How do two become tummy? A person who touches a corpse becomes tummy for 7 days, and a person who touches him becomes tummy until evening. No. How do three become tummy? Utensils that touch a corpse and the utensils that touch those utensils both become tummy for 7 days. And the third one to be touched, whether it's person or a utensil, becomes tummy until evening. How do four become tummy? Utensils that touch a corpse and a person who touch the utensils and then other utensils which touch the person all become tummy for 7 days. And the fourth one to be touched, whether it's a person or a utensil, becomes tummy until evening. Rabbi Akiva said, I have a case where if I became tummy, a pole inserted into a tent, the pole, the person touching the pole, and a tent touching the person, all become tummy for 7 days. The fifth one to be touched, whether it's a person or utensil, becomes tummy until evening. And they said to him, the tent is not counted.
Okay. Great. Let's do Kalim.
Here we go. Okay. Hey. Regarding a block, regarding a block that one is set in a row of bricks, whether it's set in the wall but did not build on it, or if he built on it but did not set it into the wall, it's tameh. But if he set it into the wall and built on it, it's tahor. Regarding a mat that one placed over a ceiling beams, whether they attach it to the roof, the beams, or did not plaster over it, or had laid plaster over it but did not attach to the beams, it's tameh. But if he attached it to and laid plaster on it, it's tahor. Regarding a plate that one attached to a bin and chest or a cabinet, if it was attached in the way that it receives it, it's tameh. If it was attached not in the way it receives, it's tahor. Regarding a sheet that is susceptible to becoming tameh with midras tuma and one made it into a curtain, it is impervious to midras tuma, but it's susceptible to becoming tameh with corpse tuma. But when does it become a tahor? Beis Shammai says when it is broken. Beis Hillel says from when it is tied. And Kiva says when it is attached. A mat in which one placed reed stalks along its length is tahor, but the comments say only if the stalks are laid similar to the shape of a key. If you place the reed stalks along the mat's width, when they are not 4 hand breadths between the one reed and the next, it is tahor. If it's split in its width, Rabbi Yehuda rules a tahor, and similarly, if one ties the end knots, it is tahor. If it's split in its length and 3 end knots to 6 hand breadths, it is tameh. From when does a mat become susceptible to tumor? From when it is trimmed, and this represents the completion of its manufacture.
Okay.
And Ohalos.
Me'ila.
Oh, I put one on top of the other. Okay. Ohalos, Gimel. Rabbi Yishmael says the sacrifice of blood is lenient in the beginning and the stringent in the end, and the libations are stringent in the beginning and lenient in the end. The blood in the beginning is not subject to Me'ilah, but once it has left the courtyard to the Kidron Valley, it is subject to Me'ilah. Libations in the beginning are subject to Me'ilah, but once they have gone down to the Shishim, it is not subject to the Me'ilah. The ashes of the end altar and the end of the menorah are not permitted for benefit, but are not subject to me'ilah. If one consecrates the value of the ash initially, the ash is subject to me'ilah. Turtle doves whose time has not yet arrived, or young pigeons whose time has passed, are not permitted for benefit, but are not subject to me'ilah. If Shimon says turtle doves whose time has not arrived are subject to me'ilah, and the young pigeons whose persons have passed are not permitted for benefit, but are not subject to me'ilah. Milk of a consecrated animal, some eggs of consecrated turtle doves are not permitted for benefit, but are not subject to me'ilah. In what circumstance do they become words apply regarding items consecrated for offering on the altar? But regarding items consecrated for a temple upkeep, if one consecrated a hen and its eggs are subject to me'ilah. If one consecrated a shiitake, it and its milk are subject to me'ilah. Okay, Ohalos.
Eiluos. We started with Ohalos.
Just mix them up. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, here we go. Okay, we have Gimel Bet. Separate pieces of tummy food do not combine. These are the words of Rav Dosa ben Harkinis, but they can come and say it does combine. One can consecrate Ma'aser Sheni onto an unstamped coin. These are the words of Rav Dosa. But the same comment say one cannot consecrate Ma'aser Sheni in this manner. One must immerse his hands in a mikvah before the katos water, but these are the words of Rav Dosa. But come and say, if one's hands are become tummy, his entire body is treated as though it's become tummy. Gimel, the insides of a melon and that which is cut from a vegetable or truma. Rav Dosa permits their consumption by non-kohanim, but the sages permit their consumption by non-kohanim. The first 5 sheep, each of which is short of wool and weighs a mana and a half, are subject to those of the first fleece. These are the words of Rav Dosa, but they can come and say 5 sheep short of wool that weighs any amount are subject to obligation. All rush mats are subject of skeptical becoming tummy with corpse tumor, but these are the words of Rav Dosa. And the sages say Rav Mash can contract tumas midras. All braided threads are tahor except for those on a braided belt, and these are the words of Rav Dosa. But they can come and say all braided threads are capable of becoming tummy except for those on the wool cord used by wood dealers. Okay, Ohalos now.
Megillah. We did Ohalos at the beginning. We're not doing it again.
Why am I doing this for? I keep. No, Megillah. Good for pouring cotton. On the first day of Adar, which falls on the Sabbath, which we read the portion of Shkelim. If it falls on a weekday, we advance to reading of Shkelim.
Just a second. We are
Gimel
Hey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did it. I'm sorry. Okay. On Pesach, we read the portion of the festivals in Leviticus. On Shavuos, we read the portion of 7 weeks. On Rosh Hashanah, we read the portion of in the 7th month. And on the first day, on Yom Kippur, we read the portion of after the death. And on the first day of the festival, we read the portion of the festivals in Leviticus. And on all remaining days of the festival, we read the portion of the sacrifices on the festival. On the 8th day of Chanukah, we read the portion of the princes. On Purim, we read the portion of Amalekam. On Rosh Chodesh, we read the portion of Anya New Moons. And on Mamos, we read the portion of the creation. On public fast, we read the portion of the blessings and curses. We may not interrupt the reading of the curses. Therefore, one person reads them in their entirety. On Mondays, Thursday, and on Mincha on the Sabbath, we read the regular order portion, but this reading is not taken into account. As it said, Moshe declared the appointed seasons of Hashem to the children of Israel. The precept is that each portion should be read at the appropriate time. And one who reads the Megillah may stand or sit, one who reads it or two read it, and they have fulfilled their obligation. When they are accustomed to recite a blessing afterward, one should recite the blessing. When the custom is not to recite a blessing, they need not recite the blessing. On Monday and Thursday on Shabbos afternoon, 3 people read the Torah. We may not decrease them or add to them, and we do not conclude the reading with a section for the prophets. The one who can commence and the one who concludes the reading of the Torah, respectively, recite the blessing said before and after it. That's it.
That's it. And finally, Kilayim.
Kilayim. Aleph Gimel.
Daled.
Daled. As for trees, pears, and small wild pears, and quince and sorb apples are not kailim with one another. The apple and crab apple, peaches and almonds and jujubes and lotes, they resemble one another. They are kailim with one another. Horseradish and radish, mustard and wild mustard, and Greek gourd with Egyptian gourd and bitter apple, though they are similar to one another, they are kailim with one another. The wolf and the dog, the wild dog and the fox, the goats and the deer, mountain goats and ewes, the horse and the mule and the donkey, the ass and the wild donkey, they all resemble one another, are kailim with one another.
Okay, and we are done. Have a beautiful Shabbos, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Well, bye.
Okay, bye.